yourself in, but they are ruthless, hungry and in power again.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Brett Kavanaugh's Pokemon Going to Die. I'm your host, Patrick, aka Zendaya, aka Meechee.
Not a threat, just a fact.
Oh fuck, I forgot to think of a nickname. I just woke up.
How's the last 20 minutes been for you, Linus?
I guess the same as it is every day, just kind of oh fuck. Just a constant I got the edges of it, and I haven't been able to bring myself to watch any of the videos yet. But I kind of got the gist of it, so I can't wait to hear the details, though.
Yeah.
Let's say our names. Yeah. Did you happen to think of anything, Linus, while you were talking?
I'm Linus, a.k.a. I'm 12 hours ahead because I'm in Taiwan right now, so I'm not thinking of a fucking nickname.
All right. I'm Sam, a.k.a. a Brett cavalcade of crimes that I should go to prison for.
That's good.
And I'm Caroline, a.k.a. the edits made from the U.S. House of Representatives to Lindsey Graham's and Orrin Hatch's Wikipedia pages this afternoon.
Yeah.
Did you hear about those, Linus?
I did hear about
We probably shouldn't talk about those.
That was good.
But
yeah, we'll get to them.
One of about two good things that happened today.
As you might have guessed, this episode, I think pretty much the entire discussion today is going to be about the Senate Judicial Committee hearings of Dr. Christine Ford and the Honorable Judge Brett Kavanaugh's testimony.
So honorable.
It really was just the whole thing was a continuous sinking feeling, but whenever it would cut back to Brett Kavanaugh seeing the Honorable before his name, even though I know
I can't stop honoring him.
It's still not good.
I'm honoring him right now.
Normally, what we would do in situations like this is put timestamps in the episode description, as a trigger warning for sexual assault. But because the entire discussion today is going to be that, maybe just skip this episode.
Yeah. Just skip to questions at about probably I'd say, if I have to guess right now, probably the 2.5 hour mark is when we'll start talking about dicks and balls.
Yeah, right. Take care of yourselves, everybody, because this was really bad.
Do we want to jump into it?
It's going to be a bad one.
Can I start this off?
Go for it.
Oh, we should. I want to say before we start this, Linus, obviously, it's morning time for you. And you have no idea what the fuck has happened, even though you think you do. I was at work and couldn't watch any of this shit, so I was just watching people live blog and live tweet it. So I've got some idea.
I have seen the reaction tweets, and gleaning from those, it seems like shit has happened. But I don't know much more than that.
So I did just want to say Caroline and Patrick have both watched the entire thing.
I'm really gonna lead this one.
So I had class this morning, but I got out in time to watch the entire Brett Kavanaugh hearings. And Patrick has watched the entire Dr. Ford hearings at 2 times speed in time for the podcast. So I'm very sorry for the rain.
Somebody.
Yeah, I did just want to thank both of you, though. You're both infinitely braver than any U.S. Marine.
All right. So what should we talk about first?
Y'all hear that?
Oh.
I sure can. You mind telling us what might be in that can?
I like beer. I've always liked beer.
Oh, God.
Do you like beer? Have you ever blacked out sitting U.S. Senator of the United States?
I've never seen the word beer written out so many times in a single day.
We should probably start with the Dr. Ford hearings, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
I watched about half of it at 1.5 speed. So.
Yeah, so I think pretty much everything of note came from Dr. Ford's opening statement, and the rest of the entire 4-hour hearing was honestly kind of absent of content. It alternated between Democratic senators basically commending her on her bravery and just kind of showing their support, which is good objectively, but it didn't accomplish anything, and that sounds kind of harsh, but the point of that hearing was to get facts, and they didn't.
Right. I mean, what did anyone really expect any point to any of it? Because it, like, the only thing that really, I mean, like, Kavanaugh wasn't gonna, like, fucking go to prison for anything that came out in this.
Right, yeah.
Never gonna
So the
know.
only real impact we could have expected to see was, like, votes changing, or
Right.
like, in theory, Trump could have, like, taken away the nomination, but that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
So, like, it feels like the entire thing was basically for show.
By the
Yeah.
time you hear this episode, you will know if Kavanaugh has been confirmed or not. And I'm going to
Yes,
say he's
yeah.
probably going to be almost definitely, almost 100% going to be confirmed. This is
probably-
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not loving the chances of him not winning. Winning, is that the word? I mean, it is to
It
him.
is for
It is a
him.
win, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but all the Democratic senators alternated. Well, normally they would alternate with a Republican senator who would then ask their questions for 5 minutes. But instead, what happened was all 10 of the non-chairperson senators on the committee ceded their time, which is not something that happens normally, to a prosecutor from Arizona by the name of Rachel Mitchell.
Was this all of the Republicans or all of them?
All of the Republicans, not a single Republican senator aside from Chuck Grassley, who is the chairperson of
Fuck
the
Astley.
committee.
Fuck Astley.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. None of them said a word to Dr. Ford, which is incredible.
Fucking figures.
Yeah, and so it was.
I definitely remember seeing a lot of reports that Republican strategists were commenting on, like, oh my God, we didn't think that she would seem so reliable, or like,
Yeah.
it really seemed like they had all been, like, eating their own bullshit to
Right.
such an extent that they truly believed that she would come out and she would be like, oh, Karl Marx told me to say that he did this.
Yeah,
It's like that jury member on the Manafort trial, remember?
Yeah.
There was a jury member who was like a diehard Trump hat wearing fucking person, and then she was like, well, you know, I went in and the case was so fucking ironclad against him. It's like, what was I gonna do? You know, he was
Right.
guilty. Like,
And the only Manafort was convicted on like 6 out of like 8 charges or something like that. I don't know shit about shit,
so
but
he beat 10 of them,
nice.
which means he won.
He won. Yay, enjoy
There
prison.
was the only reason why he wasn't convicted on all of the charges filed was because of one holdout jury member, and that holdout jury member wasn't the mega hat wearing chud
Yeah.
fake news woman. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember a tweet that I read, I think this morning or either yesterday, where, like, as much of a front as you know, fuck Astley and everyone is putting up, Republicans are genuinely really concerned that they don't have the votes. So, like, I mean, I didn't see the hearing, but, like, was this something that would have changed a lot of monsters' minds or not?
No.
It would have been
No.
in like a normal, functioning, good world, but we don't have that. So,
No, not at all.
yeah.
I've been arguing, well, not arguing, but not like disagreeing with my more center liberal, to say the least, parents about the effect that stuff that Trump does, stuff that this administration does, stuff that just happened today, and that fucking fever dream, hellfire, the worst shit I've seen in my life. Is they say some Republican women are going to peel off. They're going to be really disgusted by that. And I keep telling them, no, it's not going to happen. And just
Yeah.
as like the latest the opinion polling that's been going on about favorability of Kavanaugh as a Supreme Court candidate, it doesn't divide on gender lines. It divides on party lines. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could happen. I have no faith in it.
I haven't
happening.
had any faith in anything since the Access Hollywood tape didn't sink Trump.
Yeah. It's we just don't live
Well,
in a
it
normal
was
world
fake.
anymore.
He admitted it and said that it was locker room talk, but then later said that it was fake. He forgot that it was fake, I guess.
I love my president.
I love him.
I do want to touch on Rachel Mitchell a little bit.
Yes, of course.
She was a prosecutor from Maricopa County in Arizona. And
Arpaio County.
Yeah, and she specializes.
That's where I'm from.
She specializes in prosecuting special victims crimes. So that's typically, sexual violence or domestic violence, child abuse, that kind of thing. And her entire line of questioning during the hearing was very weird because she didn't really seem to have like malice behind her, but she was hired for this hearing by the Republican half of the committee, and a lot of her questions kind of seemed to be aimed at like proving how little Dr. Ford understood about legal proceedings. And for the record, she's a psychologist, not a lawyer, so
yeah. Jesus,
it very seemed.
Have you even seen My Cousin Vinny?
Right. It very much seemed like she was just kind of trying to poke holes in the story, and like kind of question her memory. And any professional will tell you that after someone goes through like a traumatic ordeal like that, their memory on either end of it doesn't tend to be that great, because of the trauma.
But one of many thousands of things that I found really heartbreaking about Dr. Ford's testimony is that as a doctorate in psychology, she knows like all of the like concrete physical. She knows all of the psychiatry behind PTSD and sexual traumas like this.
Right.
And
yeah.
multiple times in her testimony, she brought it up in medical terms. Like she would talk about the stress hormone release during a like fight or flight experience and how that affects the prefrontal cortex and what it remembers while talking about her own trauma and her own symptoms. That's what she has to do to take it seriously.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty hard to watch for a good portion of it.
For sure.
I mean, she's already being held to an absurdly higher standard to seem credible, because the one thing I saw on Twitter is how, like, very, like, focused and reserved she was, or whatever, during her testimony, and how Brett just spent the whole time fucking blubbering and
Brett later,
being a
it's
giant
funny
baby.
how women are hysterical, and Dr. Ford was very hysterical when she sat very calmly and with poise, but she was clearly holding back tears, recounting these traumatic things and trying to lighten the mood by, at the end of her opening statement, by making a joke about like needing more caffeine to get through the rest of the hearings, as like probably a defense mechanism and as like a way to get the fucking Republicans to not be what they are. But Brett Kavanaugh, the stoic, logical man, we'll talk about him in a second, was just ranting and raving and screaming, red in the face, trying to make himself cry, couldn't do it, voice cracking, yelling about beer, interrupting editors, getting in their face. It was bad to see.
Yeah, it was.
I wanted to ask if you could contextualize something that I was seeing a lot of on like from right wing Twitter. There was a lot of talk about something about like being afraid of flying. Was that a thing?
Okay, yeah. So one of the talking points that was brought up during it was that Dr. Ford was kind of initially reluctant to fly out to DC from California, where she lives, to testify. And then
very reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and she said she doesn't like flying, but then it was kind of brought up how she's had to fly in the past for business, which, I mean, that's a thing she had to do, and that she's also taken airplanes to like vacation destinations. And here's the thing. Yeah, to visit. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know about you, but I think it would be a lot easier to do something I didn't want to do if there was a tropical island at the other end of it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm afraid of heights. Like, I've gone to the top of the Space Needle. Like, sometimes you just do a thing,
right? Because
your rational brain knows that you won't die. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the meme is that, well, it was the right wing thing is that earlier before she agreed to testify at all, it was reported in the news that she said she did not want to fly to DC because she had a fear of flying and wanted to avoid that if possible. And all the right-wing ghouls and credulous fucking large adult sons like Donald Trump Jr. seized on this and pointed, she went on vacation before. She's taking planes everywhere all the time. I mean, and what she like clarified in the hearing, that at the time that she said like I would prefer not to fly out to DC because I don't like to fly when I don't have to. She was still under the assumption that with like the Senate could organize within a couple of days a committee to like fly out to her and take her testimony in California. And she said she withdrew the request.
Yeah.
So their angle was that they thought she was just trying to get out of having to testify because she was full of shit.
And it's also like
Yeah.
the fear of flying
Cool.
is more of a claustrophobia that directly relates to the assault she experienced. And so like making fun of that is like fucking filth, scum of the earth. Like so
Disgusting.
mad, I can't think.
Yeah.
It's good.
Okay. Anybody else have any like extra specific things they want to get into before we kind of start breaking down Brett's testimony?
Yeah, I didn't really, I wasn't really paying too much attention during Ford's testimony, so I don't know too much to comment on.
All right.
I mean, again, I wasn't watching it. I just mean I was focused on work because I didn't know there was a thing happening.
Right.
That's all I mean by that.
Did you watch all of Brett too, Patrick?
I did. I watched, like fucking 10 hours today. It was an ordeal.
So let's talk about Brett Kavanaugh. Oh my god.
Yeah.
He couldn't have looked more guilty. He was just like a screaming.
He really couldn't have.
I touched on this earlier, but just absolutely this ridiculous emotional display of like he was crying while talking about, I pushed myself so hard in high school, I worked my butt off, I was on the varsity basketball team. In his opening statement, like we don't all know someone who has been an abuser who has been on all of those things, and like it's not.
Yeah, who's Brock Turner?
I actually missed like I think the first like 10 minutes or something. I tuned in before his opening statement was over, but I saw screenshots of a moment that I missed where he was talking about, he was like tearing up as he was talking about how he kept coming back to how this has affected his family.
Right.
Oh my god, you poor man.
That is, this will just touch your heart, everybody. His daughter came to him and his wife, who did look very happy in the background of the proceeding.
Oh, I'm already crying.
And said, I think we should pray for that poor woman, being Dr. Ford.
You know...
And he was repeatedly questioned over the course of the 4 hours of nightmarish fever dream about, like, some more incisively than others, which we'll get into later, but they would ask him, like, do you think ask him about Dr. Ford's testimony, basically. And what he would say was he would keep returning to this one line, which is something he does a lot. So it was very rehearsed. That my family and I, we hold no ill will towards Dr. Ford. And he also he said that like a million times over and over again. But another thing he said less often was that I believe that Dr. Ford may have been sexually assaulted, but it 100% was not me. I never did anything.
Oh, did they bring up the doppelganger theory?
They did.
Oh my god.
It was my secret evil twin, Chet Kavanaugh.
Well, they fucking named a specific guy.
Yeah, they did.
Did they bring up his name at the hearing?
No, they specifically made a point of not doing that.
Jesus.
Probably because
the
it's some
fucking person
cartoon gibberish.
Right.
Oh,
it
the fucking
wasn't
person who like
Brett,
presented that theory in the first place, like all but doxed that specific fucking guy.
Yeah.
And also, another funny thing about Ed Nealon, the person who posted that ridiculous thread, is that he knows the address of the at the time unnamed female friend. How did he know who Dr. Ford was talking about? How did he get that?
Yeah, it's kind of suspicious, isn't it?
It makes you think.
Man, I'm really thinking here.
But Democrats didn't bring that up. That's fine.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I mean, they're not as online as we are. They probably didn't fucking know.
No, I don't think they did. But like, I do want to like kind of what Caroline said, Kavanaugh's entire testimony did feel extremely rehearsed. He kind of kept returning to the same 10 talking points, word for word in response to any question. He was desperately trying to avoid actually answering anything because he knew if he did, he'd be fucking incriminating himself.
Right.
A specific pattern that cropped up again and again, and I think vaguely the pattern was as the Democratic senators progressed in the list, got more incisive generally. So at the end, we have cop Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. Sorry, I'm trying to remove it. And even what his tactic was that he would go on these weird rambling anecdotes about how he went to a really nice baseball game with his friends, and it was the Red Sox, and we had really good seats and all that. And they would get, the later, more aggressive Democrats would cut him off and ask him a direct question and repeat it over and over again, this is a direct yes or no question. And he just kept weaseling and broken record, repeating the same thing he had been repeating. One thing he returned to a lot whenever asked about Dr. Ford's allegations was that all 4 people there said that the party didn't happen. And he just kept repeating that.
Oh yeah, because he had Beach Week.
Hey, you know what rhymes with beach is beer. Want to talk about Brett Kavanaugh's relationship with alcohol and how he normally talked about it at this hearing?
Yeah, and I think we should be careful to avoid stigmatization of substance use.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm straight edge. I'm all for stigmatizing alcohol consumption.
No, yeah. What I'm getting here is how obviously he is lying, just bold-faced lies.
Oh yes.
Speaking of his face,
yeah.
Do you ever look at these pictures of his fucking face? I mean,
He's
you watched the thing. I only saw these pictures.
He's so
He is
mad.
fucking snarling. He's growing fangs.
This is my favorite lie that Brett Kavanaugh told about alcohol. It is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. It sounds like something I would have told my parents in high school. It wasn't Cory Booker. It was I don't know, one of the older white guys. I don't know. Asked him about Mark Judge's now infamous memoir of his drinking exploits.
Mark Judge, who currently is hiding in a car full of comic books somewhere.
Yeah. And as
he's
a
in a
quick
Delaware
aside,
beach
you
house.
should definitely look up and Google all the very cool things that Mark Judge has said about women and trans people,
God.
people, and people of color. He has some really normal opinions. Anyway, so Mark Judge wrote a book where a character whose name is Bort O'Kavanaugh throws up out or something. And the senator questioning Kavanaugh at the time asked, is this you? And have you ever and it got into have you ever thrown up after drinking? Or it was actually a reference to Ralphing in the yearbook, which is just people are just going to post about vomiting just because especially school boys at a prep school like this with the party culture like this. They just have the flu a lot. Which gets to Brett Kavanaugh's extremely cool lie, which is that the reason why he was throwing up a lot is because he has a weak stomach. And then he starts to list all the things that give him a weak stomach. So the first thing he lists here...
Beer, whiskey.
He says beer, which is very cool because I know we have a lot of listeners and hosts with chronic tummy troubles, and I don't think that's one of the main... the most common reason for throwing up when you're drinking a beer is not because you have a sensitive stomach. It's because
the beer gives you a sensitive stomach.
Alcohol is literally poison. It makes you very sick. But
I'm sorry. I want to clarify what you just said. Did you say that he said he didn't throw up because he was drinking? He threw up because beer gave him a weak stomach that made him throw up when he was drinking?
When answering the question about is this pukey drunk Bort Kavanaugh you in the book by your best friend, he started talking about he got into this rambling anecdote that arrived like, I have a weak stomach and like a lot of things aggravated, and like one of them, and then he lists them: beer, and he lists a couple other foods, and then he gets to something really cool. Brett Kavanaugh is being buddy with this senator, and well, trying to be. The senator's not having it, and he says, like, you know me, you remember that I eat ketchup on spaghetti.
Like, that should have been the end of the hearing.
What?
That should have been he immediately just gets arrested.
He is in a hearing for multiple very credible sexual assault allegations, and he's talking about how A, he never fucked in his life, and B, I eat ketchup on spaghetti.
Oh my god.
Like, I don't want to. I want to clarify what I said. I'm not saying
to
that.
be on the Supreme Court.
I'm not saying that putting ketchup on spaghetti is a worse crime than sexual assault. I'm saying that if you put ketchup on spaghetti, you are definitely a sex criminal.
Yeah.
So there's no point continuing the hearing.
It was pretty funny when the senator like shut him down and says something. I did not ask you about ketchup on spaghetti. Like, nothing matters, but I mean, it was just funny. So, all right, what else did we talk about? In this
Rustic
hearing, Brett?
Italian. God.
Should we talk about how he asked a sitting U.S. senator whose father was an alcoholic if she regularly gets blackout drunk?
Yes, because the senator. Do you have her name in front of you, Patrick?
Yes, it was Amy Klobuchar. She's a senator from Minnesota.
Okay, yeah. So she was questioning Kavanaugh about all this drinking stuff as well, and she asked him if he has. She says that as an. First of all, she like her demeanor in questioning him just looks very like worn down and sad, and like I don't know how shitty this person is because they're a senator and a Democratic senator. So she might have some very bad opinions and takes, but I saw America's women reflected in her asking questions to Kavanaugh because she just really looked very disappointed, and she asked him about his drinking habits and says that I just don't find credible that's who like loves beer as much as you do and has been drinking as much as you do, and pretty much everybody you ever knew in your life has been talking about how you were famous for drinking a lot. It just doesn't seem possible to me that you never have any gaps in your memory.
Except for everything from the past, 25 years.
Brett Kavanaugh asks this, gets very mad, and he starts speaking over this female senator, weird, and asking her very aggressively, like, have you ever blacked out? Have you ever blacked out? I'm just curious, Senator, have you ever blacked out? Like, the whole hearing, he was just a nightmare. But apparently, even his own counsel pulled him aside because after the following recess, before answering any more questions and continuing his testimony, he basically did, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remove it. And it was like, that was an inappropriate question. This hearing is, I'm very, like, upset or whatever. Yeah, he talks about how upset he was about having to go through this a lot, how his life has been permanently altered. It was cool.
Hey, you know what today made me realize are good?
We love our
Democratic
cops, our
senators.
law enforcement.
Yeah, Democratic senators. And I say that...
Thank you, Kamala
I say
Harris,
that in
for
jest,
literally
but-
everything you've ever done. We're all big fans of it now.
I do want to commend, and this is going to be rare, pretty much every senator on the committee, who are Feinstein, Leahy, Durbin, Whitehouse, Klobuchar, Coons, Blumenthal, Hirono, Booker, and Harris. Yeah, they all were very...
They were all good.
Yeah, they asked some really good pointed questions at Kavanaugh. I do wish they kind of like coordinated their questioning a little bit because there were quite a few like repeat questions, but you know, that's gonna happen. And especially Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, because they're both gonna run for president. They had some really good things to ask, and of course, Kavanaugh just kept on rambling like a total idiot for the entire answer.
They treated him with the utter contempt that he deserves.
Right, yeah. Especially Harris towards the end. He was talking about something, avoiding answering the question, and she just cut him off, and she was like, no, I'm just going to take that as a no and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to praise them by any means. Maybe I would if I had watched the thing, but...
Oh, no, they're not good.
Not at all.
Don't
But
get
I
me
will
wrong.
say, like, as far as Democratic senators go, Cory Booker is one of the less worse ones.
Yes.
Kamala Harris being a cop kind of makes me not a fan, but in addition to all the other shit.
Yeah. But her cop skills were useful here when used against this disgusting rapist.
Yeah. Interesting note about the Senate Judiciary Committee is it's currently a 21-member body, which means Republicans have a lead of one person. It's 11-10. It would be a tie still if the previous member of the member of the committee, Al Franken, was still on the committee. But whoops. Al Franken, Minnesota senator, retired for doing sex pest things.
That's something else that I wanted to talk about. Shit, I don't remember who was saying this. Probably like everyone on the right.
Lindsey Graham.
That's
Lindsey
it.
Graham.
Yep. Was who made that comment that was like, now it's interesting that Democrats never get accused of sexual misconduct, but then when
before Kavanaugh's testimony, even just after Dr. Ford's, he was like, Democrats never get accused of sexual misconduct, so basically we're gonna do like targeted false accusations on the Democrat candidates if Kavanaugh doesn't get confirmed. And probably anyway.
Very cool thing to admit.
Bury the real allegations in a sea of bullshit out of spite. Thank you, Lindsey Graham.
Let's talk about our favorite senators and how they questioned Kavanaugh. So let's start with Lindsey Graham, and then we can get to Orrin Hatch and Jeff Hawk and Ben Sasse.
Lindsey Graham, who, by the way, was in the Senate overseeing Bill Clinton's impeachment for doing sex pest things. So
I think you're mistaken. I don't think a Democrat has ever been accused of sexual misconduct. I did want to say I like how Republicans. Now this is going to be a sort of a hot take. I'm about to point out that they're hypocrites, but when basically at all times when a Republican isn't being accused of sexual misconduct, Republicans are going on and on about whoever the last Democrat to be accused of sexual misconduct was and how there's like a big trend that they're all sex predators. But then the second one of them is being accused of sex pestiness, they immediately start whining about how it's never the Democrats.
Also, he has fuck Keith Ellison and he needs to be pressured out.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just the Republicans are just so shameless. I can't even believe it. It's really I wish the Democrats were so shameless.
Welcome
with
to hell.
Good things, not bad things.
Yeah, that was the one true thing that Lindsey Graham said today was he announces during his dramatic Kavanaugh questioning, "This is hell."
Now, you know what?
Oh,
that was how I felt all day today, and I wasn't even watching it.
Yeah.
Speaking of hell, I don't know if we're really going to dive into it. I do really, really quickly want to touch on Senator John Kennedy's question for Brett Kavanaugh.
Can we get to that after the other? Because it's just such a perfect cap on the whole thing. Because it was the last testimony given.
All right, so let's talk about. Should we do Chuck Grassley first?
Fuck Astley.
I don't. Fuck Astley.
Sorry,
Fuck Astley is his name.
Fuck Astley.
Rick Astley.
Cool.
Now that I've said that, we can end this episode with "Never Gonna Give You Up."
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about fuck Astley. What did fuck Astley do today?
Yeah. I mean, mostly what he did is complain about being called a bad guy. His questions for Dr. Ford, he was the only Republican on the committee who did actually ask questions of Dr. Ford. They seemed considered and well put together and not accusatory, which that's nice that he wasn't like just shouting at her that she was a liar. He doesn't believe her. I want to make that clear. Yeah. And so a lot of the time, pretty much everything he said was in response to a Democratic senator telling them that they were wrong, but then failing to give any evidence as to why they were wrong, and just kind of being a big dumb old asshole all day.
So the two, three, but the third is like more funny than anything because it's Ted Cruz. The two and honorary participation trophy to Ted Cruz. Most disgusting Republican people in many were Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn.
Yeah.
So Lindsey Graham is just screaming at the top of his lungs about how unfair this is, about how this is just such slander and lies, and ugly lies from the Democrats, and Brett Kavanaugh is an innocent man. This poor man. And according, he was openly crying during Kavanaugh's obviously fake.
Oh my god.
One thing you gotta know about Brett Kavanaugh is that he is the liar I have ever seen in my life, and that includes the President of the United States.
Jeez.
He's so bad at it. But yeah, Cornyn was just weeping during
Well, that's
Kavanaugh's
because fucking Trump doesn't know that he's lying because he has
Right, that's true, yeah.
he has no self-awareness.
Yeah, I love my president.
I love
But-
our president.
John Cornyn and Fuck Astley and all these other ghouls and goblins were sitting very... They did not cry during Dr. Ford's testimony because they
No,
identify
they didn't speak to her once.
the rapist, not the victim.
Oh, that's so weird. I wonder what
That's
that
so
could
weird.
possibly mean.
Oh, one thing I do want to quickly mention is that literally every single Republican senator took like half of their time
Yes.
to apologize
Yeah, I
to Judge
heard
It was
Kavanaugh.
really...
And even
it
most
was,
of the Democratic senators
I
did
know.
too.
Ted Cruz was like very slimy and disgusting as always.
Ted Cruz?
He's been intimidated by the Chad Beta O'Rourke. So yeah, but basically, I honestly don't think he asked Kavanaugh questions. If he did, they were just fucking stupid because I don't remember them at all. But what he did say was that this hearing, this process of listening to assault survivors' testimony, was one of the most shameful chapters in the history of the entire United States Senate.
I mean, I would agree with that in terms of the fact that Brett Kavanaugh, as you're listening to this, is probably confirmed on the Supreme Court.
But like, it's thinks if you go back 100, 200, 150, 10, 20, any
Maybe he
amount
just
of
meant the
years,
fact that he's a senator.
and you look at stuff the United States Senate has voted for and endorsed, there are
You know, like the Iraq War.
genocide, slavery, imperial workers. for no
Okay, but
reason.
what about listening to a woman talk?
That is shameful. It's unethical. I know, but my favorite Republican question asker, fucking whatever, was... What did you say his name was, Patrick? Yeah, it wasn't the... It was
John
the
Kennedy?
Like, Kennedy. Kennedy. So what he asked Brett Kavanaugh is, do you believe in God?
So
And Brett just proceeded, as Patrick said on the Twitter, he just lied to God.
Yeah, so yeah, John Kennedy was like, "Do you believe in God?" And Kavanaugh was like, "Yes." And then he said like, and this is as close as I can remember. "All right, I'm gonna give you one last chance. Did you assault that woman?" And then Brett Kavanaugh, lying to the Senate, to the American people, and to fucking God, says no. So that's cool.
I mean, like, did he really think that Brett Kavanaugh would go, "Oh shit, I didn't realize I would be lying to God"?
Like,
No.
it was the first time in like it was only 4 hours, but it felt like a lifetime. This awful fucking hearing. I just started screaming, laughing, and I'm very sorry to my neighbors for that. But that's the release I needed. And to put a cap on it, Kamala Harris was the last Democratic senator to ask questions to Kavanaugh, and what she asked her final question to him, she interrupted him as he was going on a really stupid anecdote to try to filibuster out her time, was, did you watch Dr. Ford's testimony? And Brett Kavanaugh said no. And Kamala Harris, the cop who unfortunately was good today, said no further question. And that's just like, it's really the whole situation in a nutshell. This entitled, whiny, baby monster rapist doesn't even want to stop to watch the testimony of the person who claims that he has no will towards, and that he didn't know. It was...
Yep.
Well, he was probably too busy
No.
drinking beer.
we cannot overstate how many times in this court hearing Brett Kavanaugh talked about liking beer, and then I still like beer, which is something that I'm sure his counsel told him was a joke. So,
God.
We're all gonna die.
Yeah, I mean,
women's rights.
Yeah, so
rights,
congratulations to newly confirmed.
Etc. are going to be rolled back a million.
I mean,
years.
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank Joe Manchin for voting yes.
Oh yeah, one more thing is that Jeff Buck Tester voting was so funny because it was just him saying, "I'm so sorry to Dr. Ford, and I'm so sorry to Brett Kavanaugh." And he just said nothing. Didn't ask any questions. It's just like in advance excusing himself for voting yes by pretending like he's conflicted now. So thank you, Jeff Buck from Arizona.
He was too busy honoring. Yeah. He was too busy honoring Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, this is normally the point in the episode where people would tell you to go like call your senator and shit. And while I do still think you should do that, I honestly don't think it's not going to make a difference.
Everyone who would everyone who's going to be voting on him had already decided that they would vote the way they're going to vote.
Oh yeah, also one more thing that I don't think any of us mentioned is that when the Republicans were just apologizing and saying this is like the biggest travesty in the history of the fucking United States Senate, is Brett Kavanaugh was just had such a shitty grin on his face. Because he knows he's untouchable. I hope
a real slime ball there.
Ketchup on spaghetti eating grin.
Just a hope.
Yeah, I mean, you're it's fine to hope for whatever you want. I mean, you're not. How are you gonna like make that happen? I wanted to say, because I've seen a lot of people talking about this, and I think I touched on it last week, but there's been a lot of questioning why Kavanaugh? Why does it have to be Kavanaugh? Why don't they withdraw his nomination or say, we can nominate someone else. It doesn't have to be Kavanaugh. And the reason, in my opinion, is if you've seen any of these right wingers tweeting about hashtag #MeToo, you know that they are not fond of it. And I think that this whole thing and the fact that they want it so badly to be Kavanaugh is they're just trying to take this opportunity to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what? Whatever you did as a teenager, we want to make a statement and we want to clarify that whatever assaults you may have committed, because they say that they don't think he did it, but they also will then like flip and say like, and even if he did, they really do just want to, they want to set a precedent where boys will be boys and you can commit sexual assault as a teenager and then be put on the Supreme Court for the rest of your life.
Sam,
and
I would like to edit that. What better statement
could you make?
I would like to edit that just a bit. You can commit sexual assault, full stop, and put on the Supreme Court and nothing matters. As long as you're
I think that's true.
Rich white man who was basically like bred to be on the Supreme Court.
Right. And I don't think that Brett Kavanaugh getting nominated or getting confirmed will reach that target for them, but I think that that's what they're trying to do. And I do think that if we are right and you're listening to this and he has been confirmed, or if we somehow could manage to do a superhuman feat of editing and organization and get this out before that happens, but that's fucking impossible.
That's not.
When the time comes and he definitely gets confirmed, it's not over. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's super demoralizing, but I guess it's not over. The
fact that this happened at all, I think, shows an immense amount of like ground being won, because like the amount of effort that they had to go through to like confirm this. I mean, like 10 years ago, we wouldn't have heard about this. It would not have reached this point.
Well, it wasn't Anita Hill like 10 years ago?
Anita Hill was, I want to say something like 27 years ago.
Well, look at me go.
I mean,
my politics brain didn't turn on until like 3 years ago, so.
I do think that's a good point that Linus brings up. Like they did mention I think I can't remember. I think one of the Democratic senators mentioned in an outside interview that the only reason that Grassley allowed this hearing to go on was because there was such an enormous public outcry. So if anything, I think that this is proof that at least gets attention. Results are another thing, but it's a way to work towards them.
Very slow steps.
Yeah, and it is worth mentioning. We all know this. Like, it is entirely possible that our system can be changed. Like, there's no reason that we have this many people in the Supreme Court. If we get a Democratic president who has any fucking semblance of a brain, they absolutely do have the ability to pack the courts, which would can and should. And I would say it is a fucking moral obligation.
Yes, at this point, absolutely.
Because I think the whole concept of the Supreme Court and the way that nominations work and the lack of term limits, basically the whole premise of the Supreme Court relies on Supreme Court justices being nonpartisan. The law is the law, and these are just the best legal minds, which is not how it works. Like, I mean, we've fucking seen from, like, Brett Kavanaugh abandoned any shred of pretending that he wasn't just a Republican who wanted to be on the court so that he could do Republican things. Like, he was very clearly this is my side. I'm with these people.
You'll see the really cool opinion Brett Kavanaugh has was, I don't know how laws work. But some point is it's okay for SeaWorld to mistreat their orcas to the point where they kill the people that work for SeaWorld, and SeaWorld isn't responsible for the risk that the employees
so that's
take.
going to be a landmark case.
He just has a lot of really good opinions.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of is like, I've been seeing a lot of tweets about how, like, this news cycle is just devastating and demoralizing, and can seem, and very much is, like seeming like the bad people gaining more power. But if you really look at, like, history, this is something they wouldn't have even had to deal with very recently, and now they're having to fight tooth and fucking nail, and everyone is getting angrier and angrier. So, like, it doesn't seem like anything's getting better, but the future is inherently a good thing, and we move into it one winter at a time.
Yeah, like, public opinion is definitely moving overall in the right direction. It's just, it's scary, like, whether we can turn that into anything, especially with the people in power doing so much to prevent the power being taken away from them.
Yeah.
With gerrymandering and fucking stealing voter rights and stuff. So we'll fucking see, I guess.
All solidarity and love to Dr.
Yeah.
Christine Blasey Ford.
Yeah. And not to mention all the other accusers who are probably still going to continue coming out, who didn't get a chance to, like, say, I mean, not that you should have to. Like, I still am fucking aghast that this happened at all, but
yeah.
All right.
I just don't think that like, this massive of a shift in like just the way society works can be, like, tripped up or derailed by any amount of
eventually
men yelling and screaming and crying.
Eventually the bad people are all going to be dead from old age, if nothing else, which is extremely a fact and not a threat in any way.
Brett Kavanaugh
can't not die.
That's just something I like to think about when shit like this happens and it seems like we're living in the worst timeline. It's like, well, this is what happens before things get better.
Right, as long as the earth doesn't catch on fire first. But I did want to just really cap this off, sum it up with the words of our good president with the biggest brain, I believe is what he said at his press conference the other day.
What he said is that a top expert in, like, Chinese studies or whatever said that China very much respects, and this is verbatim, Donald Trump's very, very large brain.
Judge Kavanaugh showed America exactly why I nominated him. His testimony was powerful, honest, and riveting.
weird how this other immensely rich rapist
Didn't he at this press
going to
conference?
bat
It was a press conference that he
Kavanaugh.
did it like it was a rally. But didn't he say something?
He said he
like
was
didn't someone
falsely
specifically
accused,
ask him like,
which
has your
is
experience being accused of assault affected your support for Kavanaugh? And didn't he say yes, it has?
God.
I think he did.
Yeah, he said, I've been accused falsely 4 times, never happened, or something like that. And then he also said something really cool, which was that somebody asked him about, like, hey, so why are you always caping for the accused and not the accuser? Like in the Alabama Senate special election Senate race
I
last
remember
year.
Roy Moore.
And he said, like, I want to be clear. I was not happy with Roy Moore, but I'd rather have a Republican candidate than a Democrat.
Now let's fill in the words that he didn't say. I would rather have a Republican who is a pedophile than a Democrat who isn't.
Yeah, it's a staggering example of the quiet part loud. Just a really
It's cool.
good job by our good president.
And his big brain.
So I think there is one little tiny glimmer of good news that happened
Yeah,
today.
there sure
And I would like
fucking
to
is.
sum it up. I would like to sum it up with the same words we used last week. Quote from Man Sued. What are you gonna do? Sue me? That's right, folks. Elon Musk has officially been charged with fraud by the Securities Exchange Commission.
Oh my god, I didn't hear about this!
The SEC is charging Elon Musk with fraud.
And they're saying that they want to forbid him from ever opening or operating like a public company ever again in his life.
Oh my god.
And also, I'm pretty sure the main reason for this is that he said his stocks were going public, and he listed the price of those stocks as $420.
He is getting charged with fraud for doing a
which,
funny
as we know
420.
from text, and he rounded up to this number, as we know, texts from his girlfriend Grimes from Azalea Banks, where Grimes is saying, yeah, I just showed Elon Musk weed, and he thinks it's very funny, and he thought it would be really cool to round the 419 something cents up to $420, and now
Also
he's being
known as
sued
fraud.
for fraud.
Now, does this mean that Sam is gonna have to look at that picture some more?
I mean, as if I fucking already wasn't seeing that fucking picture of Elon Musk smoking weed constantly. It hasn't gone anywhere. I'm so fucking sick of seeing that
Why don't you
stupid
like
ass
the
picture.
Why don't you?
Why don't I like it?
Why does his face look
Because
like that?
he's Elon Musk smoking weed.
He looks like fucking...
It is also worth mentioning that Tesla stock dropped like 10% immediately.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I'm so
Awesome.
torn because I want the electric car to succeed, but not like this.
The other small bit of good news is Bill Cosby rot in
Yes.
prison.
Yeah.
Bitch. He was
Oh,
sentenced
yeah.
to 3 to 10 years.
The greatest headline I saw this week was like, it just said like, Bill Cosby is now living in a 7x12 room.
Oh my god.
Or something like that. It was like, he's being kept in solitary for now. Until they can, I guess, put him in Gen Pop. But like, yeah, he requested that he be allowed to stay at his house while he was appealing the case, and the judge was like, "Yeah, fuck no, you're
Nope.
going to jail," and he is now in jail,
That is chicken soup to my alien soul.
where he will be
and my
for at
rotting
least 3
I-
years, at least.
brain. And he's 81, so he's probably gonna die there. So die there,
Yeah.
bitch.
There was an article that I think I read, and when the Kevin Spacey shit came out, because like previously I considered Kevin Spacey like a major influence on like me and idolized him for acting and all that shit. And the article was like, hey, here's how to rationalize those feelings in the wake of this kind of thing happening.
That's cool.
And it is kind of about like how like recognizing that you can like someone's work and kind of not to, artist is different from the anyway. It's basically just about how to like recognize that can still mean something to you, and you can know this.
Okay,
thing.
I thought you were saying that it was an article saying how to hand wave away his crimes.
It was basically like how to like the movie. I don't know, fucking how to like his Richard III Now tour and still know that like he's a fucking predator.
Speaking of waving away his crimes, Elon Musk no longer follows Grimes, so I guess that's over.
Really? Is this
Yeah.
how we find out?
Sometimes Sometimes it lasts in love, but sometimes it hurts instead.
I hope the fucking nut was good.
It wasn't.
I.
It wasn't.
All right. How do y'all feel about moving on to questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm down.
All right.
I haven't said much because we've been talking about this goddamn thing that sucks the soul right out of my body.
Fucking.
Yeah.
I just refreshed the page to see if we got any new messages, and I just see right at the top of my screen, Bit Wisdom asks, "Do you believe in God?"
I mean, I can.
We can answer that.
I don't know. I guess. I mean, I typically identify as like an atheist or agnostic or whatever. But recently, I've found a lot of comfort in believing in the idea of hell, just because of all the people who are going there now.
Valid.
Absolutely. I was raised Jewish, and I very much believed in God, but then I just kind of. I went to college and got brainwashed, and I stopped having to go to temple with my family, and I became agnostic. So that's your answer.
I'm like, I mean, probably the closest thing to like who's that famous atheist?
Richard Dawkins.
Bill Maher.
Richard Dawkins.
Ricky Gervais.
Richard Dawkins. Anyway, I wasn't raised to be very religious. My parents went to like United Church, which is like, I think I've talked about this before. It's like probably one of the best aligned churches in the world. Like they're one of the first Christian denominations to have an openly gay leader.
Oh.
And then another one, actually. They had a gay man, and then I think now a lesbian is the head of the church. And it's like, I think it still might be the only major Christian denomination to do that. And they mostly focus on, like, not worship. It's more like, you know, hey, be a good person, and, you know, stuff that, you know, Christianity should be more focusing on, I think, even though they don't. But, yeah, I mean, I can't pretend that I'm not, like, straight up a atheist, but, I mean, I'm open to the concept. It's just not really something I think about that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I pretty much like never did. My parents are religious, but like I'm just like missing the spiritualism node in my brain or whatever.
Yeah, so we're all the Ricky
right.
Gervais of this podcast.
Our next question comes in from Tumblr user Interstellar Princess, who asks, I get stuck with people in close quarters for chunks at a time and have to try to become friends with them lest I lose my mind. A lot of the time they're cool, but sometimes I have a sneaky suspicion that someone I'm working with is a huge stinking rat. How should I tactfully test them to be sure they're not secretly right-wing assholes or some equivalents? Thanks.
In my opinion,
Okay.
I would say don't, because I think you might just ruin your work life and just have a very bad time.
Yeah, that has happened to me.
This is genuinely a talent of mine, is that when I talk to someone, I can immediately like adjust myself to be on their wave and suss out like what kind of person they are. And usually you just kind of like don't I don't like pretend to be anything that I'm not, but like you know how like you kind of like zoop back into the closet when you're around people who you don't know are like gonna be okay with it, but
Yeah.
you kind of suspect. You're like, you go to like a fucking wedding, your uncle's wedding or something, and you talk to some guy and you're like, I'm just not gonna bring it up. I don't know anything about this guy, but I'm catching some signals here. So I mean, I guess just that. It's hard to describe, but like this is something that I do on like a daily basis, where I like kind of, I don't know, like the Belgians who I'm going to school with. Well, I'm not going to school with them. They're living in the same building right now. Who like I kind of like was like, okay, these palled around with until one of them said something like pretty racist, but I don't think it was like in a, what's the word I'm looking for? It seemed more ignorant than like genuine vitriolic hatred. Yeah, he doesn't speak English very well, so he may not understand the like the full impact of like that word, but which I'm not going to repeat. But it was like,
Oh, yikes.
that's kind of what. So yeah,
That sounds bad.
it's kind of like I don't know. I'm not really answering the question, but like this is a thing that.
I mean,
you
the
do.
answer is basically just bring Linus to work with you.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yep.
All right. Next question comes in from Anonymous, but it's Scout. And they just say, hey, HKIP, it's Scout. Just want you to know that I'm actually researching the question that you guys got from me last week, and I'll report back. Anyway, my real question is, how do you think we should eat Oreos?
You know,
Okay, well,
As God
my
made them.
personal method is you get the Oreos and a glass of milk, but you don't dunk. You put the Oreo in your mouth, and then you take a sip of milk, like fucking what's her name from Get Out? Remember when she's eating like the Fruit Loops like that?
Rose.
Yeah, when Rose is like eating the Fruit Loops by like eating them dry and then sipping milk. That is exactly how I eat Oreos. So that's one method.
Valid. You have to get some liquid in there.
now
Well, the dunking doesn't really work. They're not absorbent. They're cookies.
No, you gotta hold it. It's an art form.
You gotta hold
keep
it in there for
under.
like a long time.
I
I don't have the dexterity.
I'm gonna give a hot take here.
Sam.
You just put them in a bowl with milk and eat them with a spoon.
No, actually, you know what? I'll take that.
Do you remember?
That's all right.
No.
Has
Yeah.
anyone else here ever
Yes.
eaten the cereal
Where can you find a
Oreos?
spoon big enough?
My
Yes,
God.
I have.
I did
That
once,
was
yeah.
good shit to me, a child, probably disgusting and like would make me vomit if I tried to eat it now. I just eat Oreos straight up like a cookie. I just bite into it like a human being, like an adult.
The best cereal.
Do you have a weak stomach, Sam? Do you have a weak
Only when I
stomach?
drink Beeb.
I'm gonna say the best
The
cereal
thing that Sam famously
I just
does
wanted
all
to
the
say
time.
Beeb. I'm sorry.
is when you like. The best cereal is clearly when you eat like a bowl of Fruit Loops and you have like a lot of milk left, and then you pour more Fruit Loops into that milk, which is already like full of sugar and dust and shit. That's
You
the
just
best
keep
bowl.
you just keep doing that until the milk becomes more Fruit Loops.
I love dusty
Yeah.
milk.
Dusty
Yeah.
milk.
I love
Dusty
to eat
milk.
dust.
That is what Henry Kissinger comes.
Or when you've gotten right to the bottom of the box and you just get a lot of dust just right off the bat.
We haven't
All
talked
right.
about cum on this podcast in a while.
That can't be
It
true.
is. Sorry.
All right.
You're welcome.
I think we can do this one as our last question. This comes
Hey,
in.
wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
1 second. Have we on this podcast ever talked about the president's toad from
We
Mario
haven't
shape?
because it
Did it?
wasn't
We made
funny
a
and we
point
chose
of not
not
talking
to.
about it.
Yeah, it's like
It's very funny.
there's like
Continue with your question,
Yeah.
Rick.
Anyway, our last question comes in from Tumblr user Bisexual Rosalind, who says, how do you explain to your brother that asking a trans person what their quote-unquote birth gender was is pretty rude and invasive? I just can't seem to get it across to him. It is, like, that's just not a thing you ask people. That's not something you ask cis people. It's rude from any reading. And if you can't, like, get that, I'm not really sure how I would communicate it other than just being mad.
I mean,
Yeah.
I will generally just, like, not snap at people, but usually immediately correct them when they do shit like this. But I totally respect, like, not being me and not feeling comfortable doing that. So, especially with, like, it depends on the kind of relationship you have with your family. Like, you might not have the kind of relationship where you can just say, hey, that's not cool. So, I mean, just find your... I don't know. I don't have an answer, really.
Just play this
because it is super
play this
valid.
podcast episode for him.
Yeah. It is super valid to, like, not have a really good reason to, like, be correcting people but still feel really uncomfortable doing it, you know?
Right, yeah. Okay, so I think that does it for questions. I have a Lightbringer this
Right,
week.
we do those.
Y'all want to hear about it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So yesterday I watched the entirety of The Comedy Lineup, which is a Netflix series. It is 16 15-minute comedy specials. And so there is, about 8 hours of content there. No, that's wrong. 4 hours of content there. And it's all really good, There's a bunch of people of color and women and LGBT folks on, and it's really good. There's one bad one that gets weirdly misogynistic and homophobic, but you'll know when that one is pretty quick. Just skip that one and move on to the rest.
All right. I got one, if you're done.
I am done.
Okay. My Lightbringer this week is American Vandal, which I avoided.
Oh,
I
yes,
didn't
yes, yes.
avoid watching it, but I hadn't watched it, and eventually I was like, okay, I just got to sit down. And I genuinely can't remember when the last time it was that I put on a show and I could not stop watching it until the end of the season. Because
so good.
within the
It's
first
so fucking good.
10 to 20 minutes of the first episode, I was like, well, I'm watching this whole season tonight. Like, I'm not doing anything else. I genuinely think
It's so good.
it's like, it is our generation's Breakfast Club. Like, it is the thing that
Yes.
captures the
It is
zeitgeist
the perfect
of our
articulation
generation.
of
It
every single person, every single one of us knew in high school.
I have never seen such
It's just
accurate
very
high
good
school.
at doing high school.
They're
Yeah.
so good at it. I've never seen, like, every time there's a new character, I'm like, I knew 3 people like that in
Right.
high
Yeah.
school. Like, everyone did. Like, when they introduced Kevin, I was like, I didn't think they could get any better at high school characters, and they
Literally,
just won
yeah.
out to themselves.
Literally, my entire friend group in high school, I was also Kevin.
Yeah. It's like, and then anyway, it manages to be like a fucking hilarious show, a genuinely engrossing mystery on the level of like Serial. Like, you get as into it as you would get into like a season, Serial, and also like a really meaningful comment on like the age of social media
Sure.
and what that actually means to
Yeah,
like
I'll say
kids
that.
growing up today, especially the second season. They get much more
Yeah.
into it in the second season. Like, I still can't stop thinking about the Party at Nana's episode, which I still think is probably the best episode they ever did.
Do you remember what number that is, Linus? Because I finished season 2 last night, and I was looking at season 1 through like the episode.
I think it's
descriptions to
episode
find the
5.
party it is.
I think
Okay, cool.
Anyway, but
Yeah, I
like,
want to
it is
rewatch that one.
the fact that it didn't win, like, was nominated for anything is a travesty, because it is a masterpiece of just filmmaking. It's so
It's so good.
I was trying to imagine how they put this together from a practical like standpoint, and I couldn't imagine. It's like so complex, and every part of it is flawless. So yeah, that basically applies to the whole season.
I've seen the first episode. I just watched it a couple days ago, and it is good. I'm looking forward to watching more of it. Don't comment on whether I'm right, but I think I know who did it. I think it's Dylan. He seems like a real troublemaker, and there's just a lot of signs pointing towards him being the guy. I think Dylan probably
did the dicks.
Oh my god.
If it was Dylan, that would be a fucking twist.
I can't stop thinking about that one line. Look at the ball hairs. It's like,
And look at these. Look at the mushroom heads.
So good.
God.
you're not gonna find one hairy ball sack in any one of those photos.
Oh my god. No, it does really seem like, I mean, it's so dumb, but I was just watching it and I was just like, there's no hair on the balls.
I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, those dicks are different. As soon as they showed him drawing dicks, I was like, well, those are clearly different dicks.
It is.
Like,
The first season is simultaneoly like hilarious and riveting.
Yeah.
you can't
so
stop
dumb,
watching.
but you get so into it. Yeah.
It's so good.
My Lightbringer is, I'm gonna say My Lightbringer is an album that I really liked in high school that I've only come to like more with time, which is Wonderland by Forgive Durden. I was like a big pop punk head in high school, and I don't think that album is really like a pop punk or like emo album, but it gets like grouped in with that stuff a lot. It doesn't really sound like anything. It's just really fucking good. And I was talking to Josh about it the other day, and we both agreed that it's really fucking good. So fucking listen to it. It's good. I don't know how to describe it. It sounds like nothing. It's very good. That's all I got.
For my Lightbringer, I don't really know anything about art, but I would like to talk about a painting and the story of a painting for this very special episode of Henry Kissing's Pokemon Going to Die. It is the painting of Judas slaying Holofernes, which I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing right, by Artemisia. Also, I'm definitely not going to pronounce this right, but Artemisia Gentileschi, who was an Italian painter who was a woman in the early 1600s, which you will note is extremely rare. She was a very good painter. And in this biblical scene of Judith beheading the king, or no, the general Holofernes, Artemisia painted herself as Judith, and the man who raped her as Holofernes. And she actually went through a trial for this at the time, in the early 1600s, the trial involved her being tortured while being questioned, like with thumb screws and such as. And throughout all the torture, she maintained her story. This man raped me. And he was actually convicted. And I think the charges were overturned later, but holy shit, does that say something. But it's a good painting, and it has nothing to do with stories going on this week. But you should check it out. It's pretty moving.
It is a hell of a painting. That fucking blood spray. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
All right.
Not a threat, just a painting.
This is a painting. How can a painting be a threat?
If you want to support this show, you can do that at patreon.com/HKIPGTD. If you donate $1, you get access to all of our bonus content that we put up on our Patreon, including outtakes from the show, occasional audio Lightbringers, and written Lightbringers. I'm trying to get one up probably about this weekend about a music festival I attended in Minecraft, so be on the lookout for that. If you donate,
that sounds
God,
so cool.
I really want to hear more about
you
that.
donate-
What the fuck?
If you donate $5 a month, you get a special role in our Discord and a shout out on the podcast. And if you donate $10 a month, you get an even specialer role, a shout out on the podcast, and you get to listen in live when we are recording before it's edited to sound good, like two people are right now. So thank you to actual socialist Elon Musk, Alex Shoup, Ashinu, Benjamin Kingston Faria, Brett Houts, Kadeho Jones, Carrie J, David Boser, Delaney Fritz, Destry Hawk, Dejanes, Ellen the Anarcho-Lalandist, Evan, Fire Woody Allen into the Sun, 500 Bees, Florian Siegel,
Amen.
Harry Tomlinson, Helga K, Homesar, John McCain, Funeral City, 350 Million Dead, Low, Michael Weems, Mogu the Panda, Non-Binary with Left Beef, Oingo Zuma, Kuo Boingo, Ollie Anders, Paige Messer, Pitaz, Pregnant Seinfeld, PR the Disaster, Roanberg, Scout Shiro, Single Payer, Sonic Mpreg, Six Armed Sweater, Sophie, Stephanie Roof, Summergeist, The Tallest Jew, Tufter McGee, and that's it. Boy, there are a lot of you guys now.
Thank you to my cousin Flo, who I forgot to tell everyone how to pronounce your name.
And as always, thank you to the Taxpayers for the use of their song Evil Men off of their album Cold Hearted Town. It's a really good song, a really good band. Go check them out. So I think that wraps us up for this week.
We didn't do our Twitters and stuff.
What's about what I'm gonna fucking do, Sam? Jesus.
No, it's not.
God damn it. I have been Patrick. You can find me pretty much anywhere at PG1497. Do that. I make good content.
I'm Linus. You can get me pretty much at Linus Kloss on Twitter. That's pretty much the only place I post. So, yep.
Oh, that's me. Sorry, every fucking time.
Yeah.
I'm Sam. I'm Posy Stress on Twitter, Positive-Stress on Tumblr. I also have a podcast, Jurgen, that I do with my brother, where we talk about the secret life of the American teenager. Fellow host of the show and girlfriend of the me, Lauren, is going to be on this week, so listen to that.
I'm Caroline, and you can find me on Twitter at csavage with 2 V's.
All right, so that's the end of our very special episode of Brett Kavanaugh's Pokemon Going to Die. Not
Just
a
a
threat.
fact. What I meant was that we haven't plugged the Twitter and Tumblr and all that of the show, is what I meant by that earlier.
Oh.
Well.
HKIPGTD.tumblr.com. HKIPGTD.
Yep.
Join our Discord. Bye.
Memento
Memento
Pokemon.
Pokemon. Fuck.
Memento Pokemon.
Memento
Especially
Pokemon.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Zendaya is Meechee, and LeBron James is Gwangi. Danny DeVito is Dorgo. Ooh, Common is Stonekeeper, and Zendaya is Meechee. Gina Rodriguez is Coca.
And Zendaya is Meechee.